What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna be working on this 2011 Nissan Maxima. I'm gonna be working on the transmission. The original transmission went out. It's a common problem on these cars, is the CVT transmission. So pretty much it doesn't go into drive or reverse. It doesn't want to move at all. Like I said, it's a common problem on these cars. I'm gonna be doing on the lift. I finally freed the lift. I still have a mess, but I gotta clean it up. I gotta clean up the mess. I didn't want to do it on the floor because this is a big deal, and it is doable on the floor, but I'm too old to be working on the floor. And if I have the lift, might as well. So I'm gonna set up the lift because right now I just drove the car on the lift, and I put it on the lift, but it's not properly set. So I'm gonna set it up and I'm gonna start working on it. Okay, so before you start, disconnect the battery. I removed the whole battery on this one because I have to remove it anyways to get to the transmission bolts and the linkage and all that stuff. But pretty much I'm gonna be removing this air duct right here. I'm gonna remove the air filter housing, a couple of brackets, the ECU. I have to remove both the I think that's a transmission ECU. This is for the engine, and like I said, a couple of linkages and brackets that are underneath. Maybe the motor mount. I don't know. I haven't looked. I don't know how it looks down there. But I'm gonna start off by removing those pieces, and most likely the transmission is gonna come out through the bottom. So I'm gonna try to do as much as I can on the top, and then I'm gonna set up my transmission jack and lift up the car and remove the rest of the stuff through the bottom. Alright guys, so this is how the bottom looks. So to do it on the floor, it was gonna be a big deal because you gotta remove the subframe. This right here is the subframe, and it has to be removed. I'm just gonna disconnect the lower control arm from the knuckle, remove the axles. The motor is gonna stay there. I'm just gonna put like a tool on the top to hold the motor. I'm not gonna remove the motor. I don't have to remove actually I do have to remove the exhaust because it runs through the bottom of the cross member. So I have to remove I'm gonna have to remove the exhaust. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the top. Once I remove everything from the top, I'm gonna remove the wheels, the axles, and then I'm gonna start working on the bottom. So here's the air filter housing and the air duct. You can better see the transmission now. It's more exposed. So I'm not gonna be removing a lot of stuff from here. I just gotta disconnect that sensor that is down there. That one. I gotta remove this bracket for the shift linkage. I gotta remove the bracket for the battery. And I think the starter is gonna be down there, and just the bolts around the transmission. So I'm gonna remove this right now, and then I'll show you guys what else you're gonna have to remove. Okay, so I removed the battery brackets. I removed the bracket that was holding the computer. So I'm just gonna put the computer on the side. I also removed the starter. The bracket for the shift linkage. So I just put this on the side. Now I'm gonna start removing the bolts for the transmission. So there's one right there. There's another one, and then back here, there's more. So you can see them right there. So I'm gonna start removing those bolts. I'm gonna go all around the transmission on the top and remove all of them, and I'm just gonna leave the ones on the bottom for last. Once I have everything set up and ready to remove the transmission, I'm gonna remove the ones on the bottom. I'm gonna leave them on for now so it holds the transmission together with the motor. So here's the starter, here's the brackets. I also removed the transmission dipstick so it can give me more room to work on the bolts. So I'm gonna remove those bolts, and then I'm gonna go to the bottom. Okay, so I removed the 4 bolts that are on the top. So the 2 long ones and the 2 short ones. I also removed the sensor the sensor and the hoses for the cooler. So here's I just recirculated the hose because see, I recirculated so it's not leaking any oil. The sensor, I noticed it has metal, so I'm assuming the chain went out on the transmission. The last thing I have to remove is the connector down here, but that connector you have to remove from the side, so I'm gonna wait on that. So I'm gonna lift up the car now. I'm gonna raise it up and then start working on the bottom. But before I do that, I'm gonna support the motor. So I'm gonna remove this cover right now, and I'm gonna support the motor with a tool that I have, because I'm gonna have to remove the cross member so I can remove the transmission, and the motor is gonna be hanging. Okay, so I'm gonna be using this to support the motor. I'm using the broom for the hood because the shocks they're gone, so I gotta put new shocks. But so I set it on the strut tower, and right here on the part of the chassis I put a bolt so it doesn't slide. There's a hole underneath, and I did the same thing on this side. There's a bolt holding it so it doesn't slide. So I should be okay as long as I don't damage the other reservoirs or the tanks. So I already strapped the motor. I strapped it on this side, and on this side, just in case there's a motor mount, I don't want to put a lot of stress on the motor mount, so I just strap it on this side as well. This should be strong enough, but I'm gonna throw another chain just in case. So I'm gonna bolt down a chain right now, and I'm gonna raise it up and remove the transmission. Okay, so I already put the chain just in case. I don't think I'm gonna need it, but just to be safe. Now I'm gonna start removing the wheels. I'm gonna raise it up and I'm gonna start removing the wheels, some of the suspension components. Okay, so I'm gonna remove the wheels. Okay, so on this one, you just remove the cotter pin. I'm gonna spray some WD-40. I should let it sit before I try to remove it, but I'm gonna try to remove it, see what happens. It's a 32, so oh, this one came off. So this is to remove the axles. So I'm gonna take it off right now. So now I'm gonna start removing the ball joint on the lower control arm. I'm not gonna remove the whole ball joint. I'm just gonna remove this bolt so I can bring this down, and I should be able to pop the axle out. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I already got this one off as well. This one's a lot more rusted. I'm gonna do the same thing as well so I can remove the axle, and then after I'm gonna have to remove this right here, the sway bar link, and after I'm gonna do the exhaust. I'm gonna spray some WD-40 so I can get the bolts a little bit loose, and then I'll just remove the whole exhaust. So let me do that right now. Okay, so here's the exhaust. So it's only 3 bolts on this side, another 3 right here, 2 for a bracket, 2 for this one, and then these 2 right here for another bracket. So pretty simple, not a big deal. Now I'm gonna remove these bolts right here, pop these off, remove the axles, and the sway bar links as well. Okay, so I got these off. They go right here. So they go from here to right here. I took them off, both of them. And I put this to hold it in place, because I'm not ready to bring it down yet. So now I got these loose. They're loose already. Also the sway bar links. Sway bar links are also loose. So now I'm gonna unbolt the motor mounts. There's enough space to do it from underneath. I'm gonna do that one, the rear one, the front one right here, and I got this one right here. from the tranny. I'm gonna take that one off as well. The rack and pinion, I think I'm just gonna leave it hanging because I don't want to disconnect all the hoses and the lines and stuff. So the rack and pinion, I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, so I already loosened the mounts. This one right here, this one's loose. I think I'm able to move it around. The front one, the front one's loose. So I loosened both of the mounts. See the one, it's even like moving around by itself. Okay, so I removed both of the motor mounts. The rack and pinion, it has a bolt down here. It's this one right here, this big one. So that's the one for the rack and pinion. It has one right here and another one over here. I took it off already, so the rack and pinion is pretty much, it's pretty much loose. Pretty much loose. I'm gonna leave the sway bar. I'm just gonna leave it here because I don't think I have to take it off. And another thing you have to remove is this mount right here. So it has, let's see. So it has two bolts on top. I just got them loose, and then it has another bolt over here. Right there, so right here, and that's the third one. You take it off and it's pretty much loose. So I got it all. This hose right here is for the return of the power steering. I took it off already. I'm gonna check if there's anything else connected. There's nothing else connected. So I'm pretty much ready to bring this down. I'm pretty much ready to bring all of this down. This right here. I'm not gonna bring it down right away. I'm just gonna break it loose and then bring it down little by little. And I'll make sure nothing else is connected to the cross member. Okay, before I forget, there's a bolt right here. It's behind the transmission. There it is. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you guys have to remove. There's like a bracket and there's a bolt. So I'm using a long extension. So you guys have to remove that bolt before you guys remove the transmission. Okay, so I'm draining the oil. This is how the oil looks like. It's like super black. So they probably never serviced it, and that's why the tranny went out. Okay, so I removed the cross member. I already took it off. So it's on the floor. So it was just 4 bolts. Those 4 bolts, and it comes off, and loosen everything else. Not a big deal. Okay, so I'm gonna disconnect this sensor. I think it's the crank sensor. I'm gonna take it off, and then the rest of the transmission bolts, the axles, both of the axles, and I gotta remove the flex plate bolts and the converter. It's pretty much the converter actually. So I'm gonna remove the converter bolts, and I should be ready to bring it down. Okay, so here's the old transmission. I already installed the used one. It's a used one. So I already put the bolts around the tranny. I'm putting the ones for the flex plate and the converter. So once I do that, I'm gonna put the axles back on. I left this one hanging, and I'm gonna start putting everything back on. Okay, so I finished putting the cross member on. So I put everything on. I try to line up everything. The rack and pinion. See, the rack and pinion is on. What else? And the motor mounts. Alright, so I'm just gonna bolt everything back on and I should be okay. Okay, so I'm pretty much done over here. I already put the tires on, the axles, the motor mounts, they're all bolted on, the front, the rear over here. This bracket right here, it's like another motor mount, another kind of mount. I already bolted on the exhaust. The cross member is all bolted on. So I'm pretty much done on the bottom. All I'm gonna do is go to the top. I'm gonna bring it down. I gotta remove my tool over there, my support, and just finish the top, and I should be ready to add the oil. I'm gonna be using this other module that came with the used transmission, or else you have to program it. I'm gonna put this on and see what it does. If it doesn't work, then I guess I'm gonna have to send it to either to the dealer or to somebody to program it, because I don't have the scanner. Okay, so back to the top. I'm gonna remove the support right now. I just gotta put all of those plastics back on. Couple of brackets, the filter housing. Not a big deal. Connect couple of connectors and I should be done. So let's put it back together, add oil and see what happens. Okay, so here it is. I'm pretty much done. All I gotta do is add oil, put the battery, crank it, see what happens. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be a major repair, but it was pretty simple compared to what I had in mind. I also gotta clean the engine because it's pretty dusty, but I'll do that right now. Like I was saying, I thought it was gonna be a big deal, like one of those jobs that you hate to do, but honestly, it was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you have the tools, if you have a lift, if you have a jack, pretty simple. Honestly, I want to say I took like less than 5 hours to bring it out and put it back on and put everything back together. There's a lot of room, a lot of space for everything. The hardest part was the motor mounts. They're the one on the front. There's not that much room to get them, but it's doable. Not a big deal. Just takes a little longer because you gotta go little by little. But overall, I've done other Maximas, other Altimas. This was the easiest one. Okay, so I'm test driving the car right now. I mean, everything looks good. I'm gonna give it a little pull. Right. Seems to be working properly. Feels pretty good, pretty smooth. No vibration, no slippage. Looks like I got a good used transmission. I'm gonna finish driving it right now and check the oil, make sure it's at the level it's supposed to be. Usually these transmissions, you have to calibrate them. I use the original module from the used transmission, so I don't think I have to calibrate it. Either way, I'm gonna take it to the dealer just to make sure. I'm gonna have them put the scanner on and make sure there's no problems. If it has to be calibrated, I'm gonna have to have them calibrate the transmission, but at this point I think it's a good transmission. It should be all right. Well, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching.